What if the thing you thought was worthless was the only thing in the world that could change everything? What if the greatest treasure was not gold, not power, not a single wish granted for yourself, but the moment you chose to see someone else's pain and decided it mattered more than your own? There was once a girl named Meera who had never believed in magic. She was 9 years old, practical as a pin, with ink-stained fingers and a notebook she carried everywhere to write down facts. Facts about clouds and caterpillars and how long it takes a mango to fall from a tree. Her mother called her sensible. Her father called her his little scientist. Her younger brother Raju called her boring, which she considered a compliment. Meera lived in a hill town so small it did not appear on most maps. A cluster of red-roofed houses perched above a silver river that sang over its stones day and night. The town was surrounded on 3 sides by the Patal Forest, named for the old word meaning deep below, because the trees there were so thick and tall that standing inside them felt like being at the bottom of the ocean. The villagers did not go into Patal Forest after sunset. They did not go far into it during the day either. They had old reasons for this, the kind of reasons that lived in grandmothers' voices and flickered in the eyes of elders who changed the subject when children asked too many questions. The trouble began the year the river went quiet. It did not dry up. It did not flood. It simply stopped singing. One morning, Meera woke up and noticed the silence where the water sound used to be. And she felt it the way you feel a missing tooth with your tongue, aware of the absence in a way that would not leave her alone. The rice crops grew thin that season. The fish were scarce. The cattle grew restless. And something worse happened that nobody talked about directly, but everyone felt. The people of the town began to argue. Neighbors who had shared meals for decades stopped speaking. The village council met every evening and accomplished nothing. An old unhappiness, the kind that had been sleeping under the surface for years, woke up and stretched its fingers into every corner of life. Meera's father said it was economics. Her mother said it was the heat. Old grandmother Savitri, who sat on the porch every evening and said very little, said it was something else entirely. She said the forest was unhappy. She said something in Patal Forest had been disturbed, and until it was made right, nothing else would find its proper place. Meera wrote that down in her notebook under the heading Unscientific Theories. Then she went to bed. But she could not sleep. The silence where the river's voice should have been pressed against her ears like hands over a drain. She lay in the dark and thought about facts. The river had not changed course. The sky had not held back rain. The water flowed. She could see it from her window. It just made no sound. That was not a fact she had any explanation for. That bothered her deeply. 3 nights after the river went quiet, Meera got up before dawn, laced her shoes, tucked her notebook under her arm, and walked into Patal Forest alone. She told herself she was simply going to observe. Observe and record. That was all. The forest at that hour was the color of blue ink, and the air inside it tasted like wet earth and something sweeter, like crushed flowers. The trees rose around her in walls and columns, their roots humped and tangled, their canopies so dense above that she could only see the sky in small, irregular patches. She walked for 20 minutes, compass in hand, recording everything. The type of moss on the north-facing bark, the way the ground sloped, the direction of the wind. Then she saw the light. It was ahead of her, deep between 2 enormous roots. A light the color of a lamp flame, but steadier, cleaner, without flicker. She approached it carefully, the way she approached everything, methodically, 1 step at a time, notebook ready. She pushed aside a curtain of hanging roots and found herself in a small hollow, perfectly circular, perfectly still. In the center of the hollow, resting on a flat stone, as though it had been placed there deliberately by careful hands, was a lamp. It was small and beautiful, shaped like a teardrop lying on its side, made of something that looked like bronze but shifted color when she moved, going from copper to gold to green and back again. It was lit. The flame inside burned without any fuel she could see, without any wick she could identify, burning calmly and completely on its own. Meera stood very still and looked at it for a long time. She wrote in her notebook, "Small lamp, self-illuminating, no visible fuel source." She underlined that twice. Then she reached out and picked it up. The moment her fingers closed around it, the flame inside went from yellow to white, and the light poured up and outward like water poured from a great height. Meera did not scream. She took a step back, kept her grip, and waited. The light formed a shape. The shape was of a woman. Not enormous, not terrifying, but tall and very thin, with hair that moved as though underwater and eyes the color of the river on a clear day. She looked at Meera with an expression of deep exhaustion and something else. Relief. She said her name was Deepa, and she'd been inside that lamp for longer than anyone alive could count. She was not a spirit of power or a granter of wishes. She was a keeper. It was her purpose to maintain the balance of the forest, to keep the old agreements between the water and the roots and the stone. But a traveler had sealed her inside the lamp 3 generations ago, not out of malice, simply out of ignorance, picking it up and carrying it from its place and leaving it where it landed, and the seal had held. Without her, the agreements had slowly unraveled. The river had not dried, it had simply lost its voice, because the voice of a river comes from the understanding between water and stone, and that understanding had forgotten itself. Meera wrote all of this down. Then she asked what she could do. Deepa said there was only one way to break the seal. Someone had to return the lamp to its original place, a flat stone on the bank of the river where it curved east beneath a split-trunked banyan tree. But that was not the hard part. The hard part was this. The person who returned it had to give up something true. Not an object, not money. Something real. A fear faced, a wrong admitted, a pride surrendered. Meera thought about that seriously. She thought about how she had told her brother Raju 6 months ago that his idea for building a small water wheel to measure river flow was childish and pointless. And she had said it in front of their friends, and she had watched his face change and said nothing after. She had not apologized, not because she forgot, because she had decided she was right, and that mattered more than his feelings. She found Raju at home still sleeping. She woke him up. She told him, clearly and without excuses, that she had been wrong to embarrass him, that his idea had been good and she had been unkind, and she was sorry. She meant it, every word. Then she asked him to come with her. Together, in the gray hour before proper sunrise, they followed the river east, the lamp warm in Meera's hands, until they found the banyan tree with its split trunk and the flat stone beneath it. Meera set the lamp down on the stone, and the moment it touched the surface, the seal cracked like a shell, and Deepa's light poured outward and upward and vanished into the air the way a held breath finally releases. The river sang, not loudly at first. A murmur, a whisper, a note rising out of the water like a voice finding itself after long silence. Then fuller and fuller until the sound filled the valley and rolled up the hillside and entered every window in the sleeping town and woke people slowly with a feeling they could not name, a feeling of something returned, something settled. The crops recovered over the weeks that followed. The fish came back. The arguments in the town did not end entirely, because arguments between people rarely end entirely, but they softened. People remembered that they had been neighbors longer than they had been enemies. Meera kept her notebook. She still wrote facts, but she added a new section at the back, small and private, titled, Things I Cannot Explain But Know Are True. The first entry read, The river has a voice because someone made an agreement to keep it. The second entry read, Some things break not because someone means harm, but because no one pays attention. The third entry read, An apology given freely, without waiting to be asked, is one of the most powerful things a person can offer. Raju built his water wheel that summer. It worked perfectly. Meera helped him build it, and this time she did not say a single word about whose idea it was.